First things first, Theo, how are you in these crazy times?
Oh man, I'm trying to survive. I mean, I can't complain because all my family's healthy.
Mhm.
All the band's healthy. All the band family's healthy. But it's a crazy situation, right?
Sure,
It's insane, man.
sure, and
It's
then I
really
don't want.
weird.
Yeah, it's and nobody knows what's happening really and where it's
Yes,
going to go to. So there's a lot of confusion, I would say. But let's talk
exactly.
about some more fun things, which is music and the
Yes,
band and stuff. So before we get into the new record, I'd like to jump back a little bit to uh, when you first started the band in a sense, because I read somewhere that when you and Jean met, that you weren't making music at the time. Is that true?
yes, yeah. It's totally true. Well, I was for before, like back in 2003,
Hmm.
2004, I used to have a band, and that band that I used to have, we toured with Sepultura, and that
Sure.
was how I met Jean. But then at some point, I started to promote music concerts and festivals, and in the beginning I did that because I wanted my old band to play. So I
Mm.
start like partnering with other promoters to make music festivals, so my band could play.
Right.
But then the music festival started to get so big, and that I ended up quitting the band. And on the time that I was actually, the band ended, and at the time that I was that Gian came talk to me, I was just being a festival promoter, a music
Okay.
festival promoter, and to tell you the truth, I wasn't that happy. I was missing a
Okay.
lot to play music, but I didn't have the time really. So
Mm.
he convinced me to go back and go back to rehearse and jam.
But since you say, well, you weren't that happy at the time, so you didn't need a lot of convincing, I would imagine.
No, it was like, well, especially if the former drummer of Sepultura comes to
Sure.
you and say, "Do you want to jam?" I mean, it's a very good. You go like, "Yeah, man, with you, I do," and yeah, that was how it took him like 5 minutes to convince me.
Okay. When you started playing, and obviously it'll take a while, but was there a moment where you kind of realized something new about your musicality, where, well, I really missed this. This is kind of my path in a way.
Oh yes, for sure. Because actually, what was happening to me at the time was that I was because I was promoting music festivals. And by the way, I must say one thing: I had two people that really helped me when I was a festival promoter, and they were both from Holland.
Okay,
They work on Mojo concerts,
sure.
and one of them, it's called Janice Lockvan. She was the PR for Mojo concerts at the time when I was a festival promoter,
Mm.
and Rob Trummelin, who is like a big guy at Mojo concerts. And when I was a festival promoter, these two people really helped me and introducing me to agents and managers,
Okay,
and being and just give me tips for my music festivals, because both of them worked on Pink Pop, so they
sure.
had a lot of experience with music festivals. So it's just a fun fact,
Yeah.
that when I was doing that, I had the support from them. But what was happening at the time is like I would be talking with agents and managers and bands and artists as a promoter, because I was a promoter, and it kind of made me sad at the time that I was like, "Whoa, man, I'm here having dinner with Faith No More, with the Foo Fighters, with the System of a Down, and I don't have a band, just to go to them." This was back in 2011, 2012. So I felt a little sad, because well, I
Sure.
always dreamed about being with these people, but as a musician, and not as a promoter, a concert promoter. But anyway, at the time I just accepted the situation, because
Mhm.
it is what it is.
Sure.
We life take its paths, and then you just go. So I had that feeling of missing being in a band, you know, and especially when I was around those people. And when Jean called me that day that he left Sepultura, he called me and he was like, do you want to grab a coffee or something? So we had a coffee, and I told him I don't even know where my guitars are, because they were with friends, you know, my guitars, my amplifiers. I didn't have any at home at the time.
Okay.
And he was like, "You're crazy. Let's jam." So we started jamming, and then when I started to jam with him and to play, very very quickly we realized we were touching something artistically, because the guitar riffs and the harmonies, they were all really interesting to us. So we decided to move forward, and I immediately was like very fulfilled, you know, and very happy doing that.
Yeah, and it was received quite well as well, the first record, and kind of the build up to it. But one thing that you mentioned is quite interesting, because now that you are that guy who has a band, and what was it like being again in the Foo Fighters studio now then? Because now you are that guy in a band. Did it feel more at home in a way?
Oh, totally. It's I felt more comfortable, you know. And you know, it's just there were a moment, especially in the music industry, with the managers and agents and labels, that they all perceived me as a concert promoter, and now I'm a musician. So there was this transition time, that because people would think, oh, so you already knew everybody, and people would help you. That's not really true, because in the first moment, they're like, what are you talking about? You have a band. You are a promoter. You know, you're not a musician. In the beginning, there was this little resistance. And the way I managed to go through it was doing a good work as a musician, you know. So in the beginning, you need to prove yourself, you know. So I felt like I really needed to prove, like, not asking any favors. Quite the contrary. I quickly realized that I should not ask favors before I could prove this is a real band, you know, like that, before we had videos, before we have one album out, before we did shows. It's like, once you prove that it's for real, then people embrace you, you know, because I already had the relationship, I already had the friendship, and then people go like, okay, so what you're doing is it's a real work, you know. And but since after we kind of proved that, it was really fast, everything. And I might say one thing: the biggest supporter we had since day one was John Dolmayan from System of a Down, the drummer. He was one of the first persons that I showed the music before we had a vocalist, before we had a singer. I showed to him, and he was a big supporter. He was like, you guys have something real. He said, quit being a promoter, just go and do what you love, you know. And so he was a big supporter. Everybody in the System of a Down was really cool to us. Serge was also. So yeah, we were very lucky too, you know. And then on that moment, you know, when I managed to show to these people from the industry that I knew as a promoter, but when I managed to show them this is a real band, I understood why I was a promoter before. It's like in my life, I felt like, okay, I wasn't happy being a promoter, but that was important for the moment I am now. So it became full circle. You know what I mean?
Well, so you mentioned John Dolmayan, and he's on the new album as well. So what can you tell me about this collaboration with him?
Well, like I told you, John was a supporter since the beginning and a very good friend. So we've been talking about doing something together since the first album. We weren't sure what we would do, but we were like, we should do something together. And when you work with John, like musically, it becomes very clear very quickly that a lot of System of a Down's identity comes from his drumming. It's so interesting. So he's a very good arranger, you know, on deciding which part of song should come now. Like he really challenges you when you're writing music. He goes like, let's do something very different now, you know. So you can and you can see that on System of a Down, like you know the way they change a rhythm pattern so quickly, so abrupt one to the other. So this was everything. But anyway, so we already knew we wanted to do something with him. And then when we started recording this album, we decided to do something together, you know. So we wrote one song, and actually we did record it with the rest of the album, but we will release it as a single after the album. Just because of this COVID situation, you know, it's just like we feel like would be smart to separate those two, like release the album and then a few months later release the single with him, just because then we have more music being released.
Sure.
So, but it was during the recordings of the album.
But can I assume then this was the same reasoning of why you decided to do the album in kind of 3 separate EPs to release them, just to be able to spread the music out a little bit?
Yes, because what the initial plan was to release the whole album in 2020 and all at once. The initial plan, because we had a big road tour scheduled for 2020. We were supposed to do a South America tour with Metallica and Greta Van Fleet, and the idea was to release the first single around that tour, and then we would go to the US and do a few festivals with Metallica. And from the US, we would go to Europe to play with System of a Down, a few shows, and also some festivals. And actually, the initial plan, we were supposed to release the full album before the show in Holland, because we were going to play I forgot the name, the biggest Ziggo Dome. We were going to play Ziggo Dome with System of a Down.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were supposed to release the album one day before, but then the COVID came. And in the beginning of the year, all the shows and festivals started to be postponed. So we just hit the brakes on the release, and we're like, okay, let's wait, because if we can't tour to support the album, maybe it doesn't make sense to release all at once, you know? So then we realized we should slice it in different EPs so we can have new music being delivered during the pandemic, you know? That was how we decided to do it. That was why. Right.
And one thing I've listened to the album, and one thing I hear is it's very energetic, I would say. There's a lot of dynamics in it, but there's a certain urgency to it, which would translate well to playing live. So was that in the back of your mind as well, the live shows when this album was written?
Oh yes. I mean, every song we write, we think about playing it live. Every song. It's like that's how we write music. It's thinking about the stage, you know. So absolutely, for sure. And it's funny that you said that, because in the beginning, the song Deliverance that we just released the video a couple months ago, the original name was Urgent, because we felt that urgency, you know. And you mentioned that word, so I thought it was funny. Yeah,
it's well, let's get into some of the topics a little bit, or some of the subjects you talk about a little bit more in depth then, because there's a couple of things that are very interesting. For instance, the opening track Now, which is kind of centers around living in the moment and not kind of occupying your mind with things that you can't control. When did this kind of realization or this thought come into the band?
Well, the whole band, I mean, we were friends before we started this band, and we were always talking about our inner struggles, you know, and our inner challenges, our fears, you know, our disappointments with life. And when you start to look at that, you quickly realize that it's all in the mind. And the mind, when the mind is in the now, it is quiet. But when the mind is noisy, the mind is either thinking about the future. It might be afraid of the future. It might be anxious for the future, or thinking about the past, regretting what happened, or wishing I was on the past. So the mind, it's only noisy when it is either in the future or in the past. When the mind is in the now, it is quiet, because then it's fed out of imagination, and imagination, it's only about future past. It's never about the now. They're not. If you are 100% present, there is no imagination going on. It's just awareness.
Right.
So this is the kind of stuff we've been talking as friends even before the band, you know. So it's a topic it's part of our day-to-day relationship.
Because what I find interesting about that notion of kind of living in the now, then you have the song Live Porn, which is kind of about, this is how I interpret these songs. Maybe they're about something else, but which I saw is kind of like the social media era of kind of looking at other people's lives and kind of not living your own life, but kind of living other people's lives in a way. And then that's how we occupy our minds, which is weird.
Yes.
As you become more of a kind of your public band, people have opinions about the music that you make and all that kind of stuff. How do you deal with that? Is that something you kind of try not to look at or think about?
Well, actually, it's the main reason we do music, it's because to feel the feeling that we feel when we are writing music and playing live, you know. So of course that we want our music to reach as much people as possible, and we want people to like it as much as possible, because we do it with so much love, you know, and so much passion, and it's so real to us, so true. But regarding other people's opinion, I don't really let it affect me in the sense that the other person's opinion, it's really about them. You know what I mean? So it's not about me. So if they have a perception of my music, it's their perception. So it's bounded by that people's life, that people's taste for music. So it's not mine. It's his opinion about me, but it's not me, you know?
Sure.
So that's kind of how I look at it, you know?
I would say that's a very healthy way of looking at it. I mean, and because
and it's an exercise. You got to exercise it. It's not easy always.
Well, that would be my next question, because this isn't kind of, you think of it once and then for the rest of your life it's good. It just keeps going.
No.
In terms of with what you write about, is that a similar thing? Is that always a mental exercise almost? Kind of, does it help you understand your thoughts better?
Well, yeah. Well, we're a very peculiar band in that sense, because everything we write about and everything we are speaking about here, it's true to us in a sense that I'm not saying we manage to apply all the time what we are saying, but we know that's the right direction. Sure. You know, so it's like we know that's the path we should go as human beings, not as musicians. It doesn't mean that we manage to do it all the time, but when we go to the wrong path, we kind of realize, okay, I'm going to that's the way I should go. You know, so it's more like giving a north, you know, and I mean, we all have struggles, and I think that's what makes we all the same as humans. You know, it doesn't matter where you're from, your religion. It doesn't matter. You're going to deal with fear. You're going to deal with anxiety. You're going to deal with with all those challenges and feelings that it's human nature. So we think that we are very different, right? Like the color of the hair, the color of the skin, where you were born. But when you look deep inside, we are really, really similar. You know, we just want to stop suffering, and we want to be in peace. That's the same thing. But some people think that they will be in peace when they have enough money. Some people think they will be in peace when they have success or fame or whatever. So what changes is what you believe you need to be in peace. But what you really want is to be in peace. And I think so. It might be a relationship. Like I did it many times. I thought, okay, if I have the right girlfriend, I'm gonna be happy.
Right.
Or or if I have enough money, I'm gonna be happy. But that's a tricky. It's a trick of the mind, because once you have it, you see it's not about that. Because if you think you need something out of you to be happy, you're gonna be always afraid of losing it. So you're not happy. You're afraid. Yeah. But anyway,
Sure.
this kind of stuff we always talk in the band, and we try to put this in the lyrics because we try to experience it as much as possible, even though many times we can't,
Sure.
because we make the wrong choices.
Well, what I like about what you just said is the kind of the universality, that we're all the same. And one of those constant things in all of this is music. For some reason, doesn't matter where you're from, what culture, everybody, there's some love or passion for music. So maybe this is too broad or too generic a question, but how important has music been in your life?
Oh, it's been really, really important since I was young. My dad's divorced when I was 7 years old, and I remember that I was listening by myself a lot of rock vinyls like Guns N' Roses
Sure.
and Metallica, and those were really, really important to me at that moment. I was like every day, every morning before I'd go to school, I would just listen to one of the albums, and that really helped me through my childhood.
And now that you're in a way on the other end, what is that like? That now you are the artist who kind of tries to put the music out there.
It's an amazing feeling. It's a great feeling, man. I feel so lucky and so blessed, that we are being able to do this and to live this, live the dream, playing big stages, touring with big bands, playing the festivals. It is an amazing feeling. It's really hard to compare to anything else, I'd say, man. We are very lucky.
So you don't miss your promoter job just yet?
Oh, not at all. I don't. I only miss being on tour right now with this pandemic.
I can imagine. So yeah, I imagine that all those tours that you mentioned, the ones with Metallica and Greta Van Fleet, and the one in Europe with System of a Down, will they still happen once it's possible?
Well, Metallica and Greta Van Fleet, we know it is. It's being rebooked right now. Most of the European music festivals we were supposed to play in 2020 are already confirmed for 2022. We don't know yet about System of a Down, because I think they don't know yet. They are still figuring out what they're gonna do, if they will tour or if they will do some festivals. I don't think they know yet.
Okay. Well, let's hope you get to.
But for sure, we will tour. One thing is certain: we will tour in 2022. We will play Holland. We feel a very close connection to Holland. Well, obviously by my name, you could imagine Theo Vanderlo. I mean, you can't get more Dutch than that.
I read that
my family is from Eindhoven.
Yeah, exactly. I read that your grandma was from a little town outside of Eindhoven.
Called Valge. Yeah, called Valge. And so in the first European tours we did, our HQ was always my family's house near Eindhoven. And our first headline show ever was at the Melkweg, the small room, and it was promoted by Mojo, and Rob and Janice helped us promote it, and it was really, really cool. And for me, it was magical, to play the Melkweg, because I grew up going to Holland every year to visit my family, and I would always look at the Melkweg, and those big names were playing there, and so that was always something really iconic to me. And we managed to play. We played the Melkweg 2 times. We played one time by ourselves in the small room, and then the second time with Shinedown in the big room, and then we played the AFA's music hall 2 nights in a row with Within Temptation. So we feel very, very connected to Holland. I mean, myself, obviously, my plan for the future is to live in Holland. I want to get old in Holland. I just feel home. but the band, we all love Holland as a band. So I have absolutely no doubt we will play Holland when touring happens. Even if it's just a club by ourselves, we're gonna play Holland for sure.
Well, we can't wait until you are able to. So I wish all the best with both the album and kind of everything that's the uncertainty of that's still hanging over our heads. But hopefully, I'm trying to be optimistic. So hopefully you get to play live again soon.
Me too.
All right, Theo.
Me too, man. I can't wait.
Thank you so much for taking the time.